Welcome back inside the Brand Center for the continuation of this first intermission show. Pats lead the Winnipeg Ice 1-0 thanks to Stanislas Vozil with his first in 13 games and his sixth of the season as they have taken a 1-0 lead into the first intermission. Dante and Caria, of course, as usual with Drew Postey. Now pleased to be joined on the first intermission show live with Chris Clark, who runs the Pats Cast, the unofficial podcast of the Regina Pats, along with Kevin Shaw, the, unofficial historian of the Regina Pats. But Chris, thanks for joining us first time on radio. Thanks for taking the time and sitting down with us in the booth.
Yeah, Dante, thanks a lot for having me on.
And before we maybe talk a little bit about this Pats team and maybe the start that they've had against Winnipeg and what you've thought of their play over the course of the season. I obviously had an opportunity to listen to your show. A lot of other people that I've talked to have tuned into your show as well. Tell us about how that show kind of came to be. How many years has it been going on, and how did you kind of come up with the idea to do a podcast about the Pats?
Well, first of all, it wasn't even my idea.
Oh.
So the previous host, Matt Van Noos, it was all his idea. So we've been going to games for years and stuff, and he said, we've been going to games, we talk about the Pats all the time, people are asking us about Pats, and he's like, why don't we start a podcast? And I said, okay. We're sitting at his house one day, so he goes into the next room, comes back out with this box of mics and a mixing board, and he's like, let's go. I said, all right then, let's go. So yeah, we started it during the 18 season, during the Memorial Cup season. So we started it late in the season. We carried through the Memorial Cup, and then we carried on since then, and unfortunately Matt had to step away from the show. He had work obligations. He's doing some school. He's got some kids, so he had to step away. But Kevin, what better guy to bring in as an additional co-host? He knows more than anybody in this city about the Pats. So
it would go Kevin then Rob Vanstone, right?
Yeah, exactly, right?
And that's a good segue, actually. Rob Vanstone stepping away from the leader post as he announced today on social media. Your thoughts on that announcement? How shocked were you?
Very shocked. When I heard that, I was almost blindsided. He's been a rock in this city, all sports, Pats, Riders, local sports. He missed last Saturday's game because he was at LIT. He's like, I go to every LIT. That's his thing as well. He loves covering the Cougars basketball, all that stuff. So yeah, it's definitely. But I think there's bigger things in the works for him, I think. So we'll find out here soon.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I don't know if you had a chance to read his final column, and it kind of was really almost a tearjerker, and it went through so many things. And he, like you said, he talked about he's so passionate about everything, right down into the high school sports. Is a guy like that someone who kind of motivates you a little bit to continue this podcast and see how far you can grow it?
Yeah, definitely. We've even had him on a couple times, and obviously his wealth of knowledge and everything. It's always nice to have people that have that much knowledge and experience with this game. So
what does he bring when you bring him on? Are you kind of surprised? I know we had him up here for one intermission interview not too long ago, and some of the stuff that he could pull out of the top of his head was just incredible, and the stories that he had. Someone like yourself who just knows so much about this hockey club, following it with the podcast, does he still surprise you sometimes?
Oh, no, for sure. Rob's been along for so long. He's seen all those excellent teams back in the 80s and stuff, and all those kind of those players that that us younger guys didn't see, right? So it's just nice to have that relationship with him.
I want to say that I had the pleasure of going on the Pats Cast as your first phone guest, I believe, last year at Christmas. Remember that?
Yeah, definitely.
They did a full interview. I think we talked for 30 minutes about how I got into broadcasting and the philosophy. That was awesome, by the way. I really enjoyed having that chat with you, with Chris Clark of the Pats Cast, the unofficial podcast of the Regina Pats. Do you have something?
No, I was going to say, might as well ask you a little bit about this team and some of the players that we've seen this year. In the pregame interview, Dante had asked John Paddock a little bit about Alexander Suzdalev, and John admitted, we didn't really know what we were going to get. Now we've got just the third rookie to score 30 goals. Nick Henry was the most recent one. What have you seen from some of the guys maybe that we didn't expect the offense that they bring out?
Yeah, you never know with those Euros coming over. It always seems like it's a bit of a crapshoot. You hear some good stuff about them. Not many times I don't think the team has eyes on them. They just they didn't actually at all. Yeah, right. It's just word of mouth, right? Agents and stuff. Obviously he has contacts throughout the NHL. So obviously, the Washington Capitals said, hey, maybe this is a spot for him, and would you like him? And, you know, you never know what you're going to get. And obviously the Euros, they've got that skill, and 30 goals, that's crazy, right?
It's crazy. I think I was talking to you guys about this in training camp. When Suzdalev came and I first met him, I asked him, are you a playmaker? You remember this conversation we had. You asked me this as well. Are you a playmaker or a sniper? And he said, yeah, I'm a playmaker. But he's got 30 goals. Like, John Paddock said he's got one of the best shots in the league.
Yeah, you see it. Like,
I thought he was a playmaker.
Well, his hands are outstanding. Like, they're pretty much, you know, second to Bedard. Like, they're right up there, and like, definitely he can do it all.
Well, he posted that video, what was it, in September or October, and I think it went viral because the Washington Capitals retweeted it or whatever, and it's just incredible, the stick handling skills that he has. And I often wonder, and I haven't gotten the chance to ask him, if he ever saw Pavel Datsyuk and some of the stuff that he was able to do.
Well, I mean, he does come from Russian descent despite growing up in Sweden, so he probably would. That probably would have been you know what, it's funny. I get guys to fill out questionnaires, right, for the Game Day magazine, and there's a little tidbit profile that I put in. And I've sent it to him twice this year to see if he would change his answers, because he's been featured twice in the magazine. The first time, he put Datsyuk as his favorite hero growing up, sports hero. The second time, he put Alexander Semin. So now he's changed. But Semin was a great player as well.
Yeah, definitely. And those Russian guys, right? So he obviously, looks up to them.
Yeah. I want to ask you while I have the chance. There was a 6-0 loss here at home to Seattle not that long ago. But since then, the Regina Pats have beaten the Portland Winterhawks. They've beaten the Moose Jaw Warriors. They've beaten the Saskatoon Blades all here at the Brandt Center. Those are all elite teams in the Western Hockey League. Do you think maybe that was kind of a turning point for the Pats and a little bit of a learning experience where, maybe there was a play here or a play there where they thought, we can skate with the best teams in this league?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, they've had.
Well, Seattle's a pro team. I should. They're essentially a pro hockey team. I should just say that, by the way.
You see those games, and I don't want to take away anything from those games, but then you see a game like last night, or they go into PA and they kind of struggle. It's almost like they can play up, but they can also play down. And it's just that they just got to find that consistency, which is always the hardest thing to find, right? Especially when you're not the highest end skill team. And
you can't take your foot off the gas. Brad Haroff has stressed it at lengths over the course of the season in interviews. To me, and I heard the coaches talk about this as well, the start in PA last night was the best start I've ever seen them have on the road this year, without question. And then the second and third period happened, right?
Yeah.
And you're right. They need to, you cannot take your foot off the gas no matter what team it is in the Western Hockey League. Regardless, you could lose to Edmonton. It doesn't matter. Every team is good. Yeah. Despite their records. Who cares about the records?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, you look at the start tonight, first shift, they had 2 great scoring chances right on the first shift. The fourth line has looked good. They've spent more time in the Winnipeg end in this period already. So now can they just continue that, right? They need to grind down Winnipeg and not play their track meet game.
Last thing before I let you go, before we head to break, quickly, maybe about 30 seconds on this one. Your thoughts on what Bedard's been able to do this year, on pace for 70-plus goals.
I mean,
no words, eh?
I know, right? You seen 50 last year, so you knew he was going to get. You figured he was going to get 50 plus, right? Obviously, we've never seen a player of this caliber in the league. I think, as a whole, I think.
Yeah,
absolutely not.
Yeah. So, we'll take a break. Chris, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate the time, and good luck with the podcast the rest of the year.
Thanks a lot for having me on.
That was Chris Clark of the Pats Cast. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll do a quick out-of-town scoreboard update. You're listening to Bennett Dunlop for Regina Pats Hockey on 620 CKRM.